Ooh, welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for all of you. Actually, I have two surprises for all of you. I have on Zoom with me right now Carey and Camilla More, and they played the twins, Tina and Terri, in Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter. Hey, Carey, Camilla, how you doing?
Fantastic.
Oh my God, so well. So glad to be on your podcast.
I'm so glad we finally got to make this happen. I know I met you guys at Monster Mania. Was it almost a year ago? I think it's been. And we've been in touch, and I'm so glad that we can make this happen. And I'm so excited to have you both on. Friday the 13th, Part 4 is my favorite film of the franchise.
Super.
Absolutely. All right. So most of my questions do relate to both of you. So you both can take turns answering them. I have about 9 of them. And the first one I got is very introductory. So how did you both get your start into acting?
Well, I mean, we both were actually independently interested in acting, and we had a crazy agent who was really worked her butt off, because it's very hard to get those first, even walk-on jobs, one-liners. Those are the hardest to get because you have no resume. And so we both had got a couple of those roles under our belt. But to be honest, Friday the 13th was the big surprise for both of us, and was kind of the start, in a sense, to doing more work.
Absolutely. Do you have anything to add, Carey?
Well, it was really also done obviously modeling and commercials, and so we were sort of acquainted with doing film work. But the Friday 13th was really, I mean, we were like 23 years old. I mean, it was just such an amazing opportunity. And of course, when it happened, well, Camilla can tell you how it first happened, because she went up for the role of somebody different, and then they created a role for the twins, so which wasn't originally written into the script.
Oh, okay.
So that might be interesting for you to hear about. But I think for all of us, since we were all around the same age, what you just didn't know at that time was that it was going to take off and become this franchise, and that we'd be talking about it 40 years later. I mean, that's the stuff that you just go, wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So before we go into Friday the 13th, I'm gonna throw a curveball. You both are in my favorite soap opera days of our lives. As Jillian and Grace Forrester. And I just wanted to ask, before we got into Friday the 13th, what that experience was like.
Well, again, I mean, it feels like everything was very fortuitous, and in a way, maybe life is like that. Because I heard that there was an English role, a contract role being offered, and that the casting agent was actually looking, and I hadn't been asked by my agent. So I kind of tracked down the casting agent independently, not through my agent. My agent hadn't thought of me. Well, that's Hollywood for you, because it was an English role. But then she agreed to see me. And they were in the last stages, so they were reading all the actresses against the lead actor, Charles Shaughnessy. And I had never watched Days of Our Lives, that's the truth. And so, but when I heard you're going to be reading with Charles Shaughnessy, my mouth dropped, and I went, is he English? And they said, yes, he's one of the stars in Days of Our Lives. And I went, I think I know him. And this is the wild coincidence, is when Carey and I were about 14 years old, our parents, we were horse mad. And our parents said if we saved enough money up to put in half for a pony each, they would put the other half in. Push comes to shove, we get these 2 ponies, and our parents had just leased a cottage in West Suffolk from Alfred Shaughnessy. Yeah. Alfred Shaughnessy was the father of Charles Shaughnessy and his brother David, who became a writer. And so we, for 2 years, played badminton and football, and we went on walks with them because they had kept another little cottage right next door. So we were like, there were 4 of us, and we just hung out really, really almost innocently, like just, and then there was a big rift in time. And now I'm, I guess, 24 or 25 years old, and I'm just about to go in to read for Days of Our Lives, and I find out that the man I'm reading with is Charles Shaughnessy.
That's hilarious.
So,
Oh my
to be
gosh.
honest, I just thought, as long as I can remember my lines, I've got this job. That's really how I felt. And I went in, and Charles nearly fell off his chair. He went, oh my God. And I could feel the producers, they were just nudging each other, because Charles gave me this huge hug. I gave him this huge hug. You know, we're talking about, 8 years later.
Yeah.
And it was like yesterday that we had seen each other. So
nice. That's hilarious. Yeah, I know he was just he was on the show last about a year ago. He was on like 1 or 2 episodes. He makes sporadic appearances, but they always talk about his character a lot. Yeah, he's a very big integral part of the show. Carey, what do you remember about like working on Days?
Well, the main thing was how I got the job, really, because I was living in France, and we'd done a movie together in France, and I was living there. And then suddenly Camilla says, they found out that I'm a twin. And Shelley Litvak, who was the producer at the time, said, okay, well, we want to see her. And so Camilla called me and just said, you've got to get yourself over here. So I came over, and I was waiting for them to see me in the dressing room, but I fell asleep because I was completely jet lagged. And so I fell asleep in her room on a sofa. And then suddenly I woke up, and there's Shelley Litvak looking down at me going, oh, wow, because the similarity, obviously that was what they wanted. So I got the job honestly, I just opened my eyes and got the job. So that was pretty good. And, and then I'm supposed to be playing this evil sister, but basically I'm playing the opposite. I'm playing a super sweet sister who then they twisted at the end. It all got very complicated and convoluted, and
Those Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, Days of Our Lives, so suddenly I think, Camilla, you became the good person, I became I can't remember. It was a twist.
I was taken off to an insane asylum, Carey.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, the police arrested me in a wedding dress.
Some of the storylines.
Yeah, that's very realistic. It's all very realistic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, the Days of Our Lives and Friday the 13th, and, that's the nice thing that Camilla and I have had all our lives, basically, is that the fact that we're twins, we do our separate things, we have our separate careers, we have our separate things that we get on with, but somehow fate always sort of brings us together again for various different things, whether it be, a modeling job or a commercial, or these acting jobs where people kind of get a bit gobsmacked that there's 2 of us, I mean, even today people go, you've got a sister, you've got a twin sister. People seem to find it sort of extraordinary, so I think we've been lucky in that way, and it's just it's played out to an advantage, so
absolutely.
Absolutely.
So what and this goes back now to the question that you told me to ask Camilla earlier about your audition for Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. What was that like?
For me?
For both of you, yeah.
Well, Camilla, you should start, because it's
yeah. So I was asked originally to go in to read for the role of Sam.
Okay.
And I thought I'll go, but oh God, I think there's a lot of nudity. I mean, I think she's bearing her body a lot through this. But when you haven't got that many roles under your belt, you basically go up and do your best with any role that you've been asked to read. And so I'm reading for Joe Zito and Fern Champion, the casting directors in Paramount. And as I'm reading, something terrible happens, which is Joe Zito puts his hand up like this and goes, please stop. And in the acting world, that is like the kiss of death. I mean, if somebody stops you, you've just done the worst and you need to crawl out of the room as quickly as possible. And so I stopped and went, I'm sorry. And he goes, no, 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 I'm just reading your resume. Do you have a twin sister? And I said, yeah. And he looks at Fern Champion, the casting director, and goes, and where is she? And I said, well, she's in Paris. Carey was always in Paris.
I love that.
She loves the caviar and the escargot.
Always playing hard to get. Carey was always playing hard to get successfully. And so I said, but she is coming back this Friday. And he just looked at Fern Champion and went, get them both in on Friday.
Wow.
So that's how we both went in on Friday. And
awesome.
We learned this later. I mean, we didn't have to read anything on Friday. So Carey can explain that part, because they didn't have it. They didn't have the roles set up for us. It had just been a fantasy for Joe Zito that maybe he could incorporate twins into the story. But it was only when he met us that he just went, oh my God, I'm doing it, and I'm doing it with these two.
Right. So I think when, you know, when I appeared in the room as well next to Camilla, I mean, I think they really just wanted to find out if our voices were similar. And I think I had a line like, let's go, or something. I mean, it was like nothing. There was nothing challenging about it at all. And they were like, great, you know, it's like, and that's when I guess they started creating the scenes with the bicycles and joining in with the other kids at the house.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. So Camilla, if I got this correctly, you're the one that had the dancing with Jimmy, Crispin Glover, right? Or is that Carey?
No, that's Carey.
That's Carey.
The iconic dance is Carey's alone.
Okay, so Carey, tell us that story about Crispin. You told me on Monster Mania, but now let's tell everybody watching.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, honestly, that was for real. What had happened was the producers had gone, and maybe the director as well, but they'd seen that Crispin was a bit kind of crazy, and they'd followed him to some nightclub, and they'd seen that he does these crazy dances and wild stuff. So they got him on the side, and they just said, look, we're going to turn on this very, very, you know, heavy metal music. I didn't know any of this. I just knew that I read that I had to get up, that he was going to ask me to dance, and that I would dance to whatever he was dancing to. Nobody said anything more than that, literally nothing. So, and they told him, just let it rip. Just do your worst. So when I got up there to dance, you know, I had to remember my character, you know, I mean, Terry was like this very, very shy kind of, you know, mouse-like person. What?
Goody two-shoes.
Well, yeah, it's very shy. And so, you know, it's like, what am I supposed to do with this? So that's me trying to sort of get a little kind of groovy with him, sort of awkwardly, you know, try and keep up with him. But I mean, it was hard to keep a straight face. It really was, you know. And I think we only did one take. We may have done one more take, because the whole idea was to surprise me. And I think I was surprised, but we may have, it went on for a long time, the first take, but I think they may have done a second one just to be sure. But that was it. It was not like, oh, let's just do it again and again and again. It was like just that one time. And the weird thing is that, you know, now I see it, you know, my daughter sends it out to me every year. She goes, oh, it's gone. No, there is it. And everyone's watching it again. Apparently it went viral. That silly scene with
That's hilarious. When you told me the story, I actually after that weekend, I went home and I watched the entire Friday the 13th Part 4. I mean, how can you not when you're meeting the entire cast basically of the show and of the movie? And I ended up seeing that scene. I'm like, oh, it looks so different now when you hear about how it was all genuine. It's like, wow, like that's actually pretty funny.
I think actually Joe Zito, the director, I think Not that I know this for a fact, but from what I've heard other people say, I think he did quite a lot of talking to people and telling them to do kind of go into a scene without everyone knowing exactly what was going to happen. I think he liked that aspect of it being a little bit improvised slightly.
Yeah, and it brings more reality, like realism to the show and to the movie. I keep saying show to the movie, and it just brings that authenticity, and it makes it seem more real. Like you can relate to these, and that's one thing I really liked about this movie was that it was a lot of good character development. Like you actually got to know these characters and feel like you know these characters as people, and then when they get killed off, it's like, oh my gosh, why do they do that? You know.
I agree. I actually saw the film just recently, within this week, and knowing that we probably were going to do this podcast, I kind of really watched it with a different eye just to see why it's so popular, and the connection between all the actors, well, the characters within it's so genuine. You honestly see these nice scenes between each of the characters making friends or supporting the other or comforting someone or whatever, that it does feel a very genuine friendship, and with us too as well, less so that we know all the people that we're with because we've just met them, but definitely we've got our own thing. Not that I'm particularly nice.
Yeah, and even like you had like Sam and Paul were together, and Paul was dancing with one of you, and then Sam got mad and left, and then Paul felt bad and went after Sam. Like things like that. It shows genuine, feelings about these characters. You actually see, oh, he made a mistake, but he really loves Sam, so he went after her and everything. And then when he found her, it was too late.
Yeah, and for him too, I think.
And for him too, yeah. He probably got the worst death I could think of. As a man, he got the worst death I could think of.
Totally.
That's pretty brutal.
I was just amazed how I moved. I didn't really remember this because, it's a long time ago, but I really moved from one guy to another. I was like a piranha. If one guy didn't work, then the next one will. And if that one, and this one looks good too.
Right. Now, which one of you did the love scene with Crispin Glover? That was you. Okay. I was making sure I had that right, because I remember, I thought it was you, that because I have in my notes that Camilla, because I get mixed up with the twin thing sometimes, and I have Camilla, is her death scene is through the window, and Carey is through with the shadow on the wall, the silhouette. And then you kind of threw me for a curveball when Carey was dancing with Crispin. I'm like, wait, did I get that backwards?
Well, that's
I'm dancing with Crispin. I'm thinking I got a chance with him. Finally somebody's paying attention to me. And then my sister seduces him and asks him to come upstairs.
Right.
And I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. And then
that's right. And then you leave.
And then she says, take an umbrella. Because I said to her, let's go. Let's go.
That's right.
I want us to go. And she looks at me like, no way. I'm stealing your guy, and we're going upstairs. And then I'm just mortified. And then she tells me to take an umbrella.
The
I die.
The last thing you said to her before your death scene, I laugh every time. You're like, you slut.
You slut. Oh, that was the last word I ever said ever in my life.
That is true. So tell us about your death scene, and then we'll go into Camilla's, about how that was filmed, because I know it was the silhouette. So and then we eventually go to another clip, and then we see your body shoved up against the wall. So can you explain that to us?
Yeah, well, honestly, I don't think it was my body. I think they had I think it was fake, because yeah, I don't really remember. I mean, I remember obviously going out of the house and, getting wet because it was, they had the thunderstorm and everything. But because that was sort of generated with shadows and the movement of the pitchfork going into the side of the wall, and the shadows and the drama of it all. That wasn't me. That was a fake whatever, you know.
They're probably one of those CPR dummies or something.
Well, it was, you know, I think in that day and age, it probably was made of straw or something.
Probably.
You know, now they've got a bit more advanced now, but
It did look a little bit like a scarecrow, I must say.
yeah, it did look like a scarecrow. I looked like I died as a scarecrow. I'd suddenly done a change.
Wearing the very attractive clothes.
Oh, the raincoat, yeah. Well, that was to add drama. That was supposed to make you feel more sorry for me because I'm soaking wet. I've got this yellow hood up and the whole 9 yards. And didn't save me.
Absolutely. And Camilla, you had a very explosive death scene. For a play on words, you got thrown through the window and threw in a car that really exploded. How did that all happen?
Well, it was done with the aid of a stunt girl did all the stuff landing on, but they did actually have a stunt girl do it. So basically I'm like looking out of the window, as we see me do endlessly in this film, but I'm looking out, and then Jason's hand comes through and he does break the glass because it's kind of a sugar kind of special effects glass. And at that point, as he grabs me like this, they say cut. So that's kind of me done. And then I had to hold my position for quite some time while they kind of did the measurements of where I was and where the hand was and things. And then the stunt girl came in, who was pretty much my size, and she was obviously wearing the same clothes. And she had a couple of things she did. She jumped on a trampoline in the room to propel herself through the window. And they put a mattress on the top of the roof. So that's the first move, is she flies through the window and lands on a mattress. And then the second move was they took the mattress away. And I believe that was a model, not the stunt girl. Or if it was, she arrived on it like from 3 feet and then she rolled off onto the floor. So it looked like me, but there was a lot of special help I got there, I have to tell you.
Nice. So how did they make that car explode?
I didn't ever look into that, but I'm sure that there were sort of triggers. So when the body landed on it, they would press different things. I mean, we were so young and inexperienced that like we were just pretty much eyes open, like, wow, oh, now I'm going to be dead. Now I'm going to lie in the mud. Oh, now this is going to happen. We were more sort of just moving along rather than being super inquisitive as to how things were being set up.
Right. Absolutely. So I do have one more question for both of you, and this one mostly is just to promote you, both of you. So what do you have? Any projects in the work? Anything you would like to promote to the listening and viewing audience? Just let them know what you got going on so they can, stay tuned, keep, a lookout, whatever.
Well, I think that we are always in the market for potentially some kind of role coming out of nowhere, but we're at the same time we've sort of let it go a little bit, like so people will have to find us and they're gonna have to make us an offer we can't refuse. And in the meanwhile, we are going to we're doing a show, aren't we, in Chicago, Carey?
In November.
Thanksgiving. I think it's that's one of the shows is set up.
I think it's the 2nd of November, but I don't know what it's called.
Oh, you see how useless we both are. We've got to look in our calendars. But there's one in Chicago.
November.
I thought it was, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely November. Beginning of November.
Oh, okay.
But no, we would love to. I think it would be really fun if they did do another Friday 13th. Like just to be able to come in and do something, know. No, it'd be super fun.
We could be the grandparents.
I always said, because if you think about it, do you know how many Friday the 13th have been released? 12. The next one is the 13th film. Do something memorable. I always said that for the 13th film, bring back all the final girls, all the final guys, and have them all get killed off one by one until there's one final girl left. I think
Well, it's a great idea. And, you know, Carey and I, like, there was a few years ago, we actually pulled together a little synopsis of what we thought was a really great, it was a riff on where we met you, you know, at these conventions and this and that, and bringing it all together that way. The problem is that it's very difficult because, of course, Friday the 13th is a franchise.
And it was also going at the time when we wrote this thing, it was all based in everything goes wrong at this convention.
Oh, that would be actually really cool.
You know, it's a cool idea. So everyone's at the convention and all the actors and actresses.
Don't give all the stories away, Carey.
Well, I'm just saying.
Hey, I'm a screenwriter. I'll steal it. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, we've got a script, but the thing is, it's slightly a problem because of the whole franchise. You know, there's all the I don't know if they've sorted
the legality. Yeah. So
you couldn't use names. You couldn't use, you know.
So I found a convention in November 9th. What date was it?
Something like that. What's the
9th to the 10th? This was in Memphis, Tennessee, though.
No, it's Chicago.
And then there's one November 2nd in Colorado.
Huh. Well, we'll get back to you on that.
Definitely get back, and I'll promote it for you guys, let everybody know to go meet you guys, because I'm telling you, if you get a chance to meet Carey and Camilla at a convention, do it, because they really made my time memorable and made, you know, because as a child I grew up watching you, you know, in Friday the 13th. And before I do let you go, I do want to tell you a story, because this actually pertains to the final chapter. So I was young. I was maybe 7 or 8-ish, I would say, and I was home. My mom and dad were in the other room doing something or other, and it was a thunderstorm out, and it was a Friday the 13th. So I'm watching Friday the 13th, and the final chapter was on TV. It was cable, and it was really a thunderstorm out, and of course in the movie there was a thunderstorm. But next thing you know, Jason's doing something to the box or whatever to turn the power out, and at that same exact time the power went out at our house. And I went, Daddy, Mommy, the power's out. Jason's coming to kill me. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, Jason just turned the power off and our power went off. He's like, that's what we tell you about watching those horror movies.
Oh my God. What's the chances of that?
Right? That is
traumatic.
Yeah, it was the craziest, biggest coincidence I think I've ever seen. I never experienced that since, and never before, but that was the one time that happened. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what are the odds? I look back at it now and I'm thinking, well, it is a stupid idea to think Jason's coming after. He's not a real person. But at 8 years old, your mind is thinking the light went out in the movie. He disconnected the box, and now your light's out at home. What are the odds?
Well, I'm sorry. That is exactly what happens in all these movies.
Right.
That scene would happen in one of these movies, that you're watching a movie, then the lights go out, and then nothing goes out, and he is in the house. So I think you were right to think something.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine if we right now saw in the blurred background behind Carey, a guy coming in with a big hatchet. Carey, go out. Oh, she's laughing like she is.
This is what one of my friends, he played our killer clown in our movie Samhain. I'm wearing the shirt that I got made, and he actually did something very similar on set. We wrapped up and everything, and it's like 3 or 4 in the morning, and I'm in my car waiting for the go-ahead that everything's clear and everything, because we were just getting ready to pull out. Here he's coming in this bloodied suit, the mask, and all you see is him slowly drifting out of the shadows. I'm like, holy crap. So yeah, I named the character Relic, spells killer backwards. So yeah. But awesome. I'm so glad to have you both to make time. This was a very last minute thing. We decided about it around like 2 o'clock Eastern to do it. I'm like, well, I didn't want to say to do it today if it's because it is last minute, but you're like, let's do it. I'm like, you know what?
I think the spontaneity thing had to happen because there were too many. I can't do it that day. I can't do it that day. So this kind of worked, and
Yeah, it worked out, and
we've done it.
I'm very grateful to have you both on. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And if you both are at any convention that I'm at again, I will definitely be stopping by your table. Love supporting, everybody, the actors and actresses that come out to the conventions. It's just amazing.
I think we're friends, aren't we, on Facebook?
Yes, we are. We
Yeah.
are. Yep, I will be
I'll,
tagging.
I'll let you know. I mean, obviously we've got email and stuff, but
Yeah,
because it is the 40th anniversary of Friday 13th this year. So we
it's
were
true.
wondering if there were other conventions. So there may be other ones coming up that we haven't heard of yet, but
Absolutely. I know Monster Mania will actually be at Baltimore, not Hunt Valley, in October. And
okay.
they're also going to be in Oaks, Pennsylvania in November.
Right.
And those are the only two that I really know of. I believe Chiller will be happening in Jersey.
We were in Baltimore last year.
Yes,
So
that's where I met you guys. I think they had a
yeah.
part 4 reunion with they had
Yeah.
Lawrence Monison, Kimberly
Oh, that's
Beck.
right.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
Harry
then we
Lady.
also went to Niagara Falls.
Right. Yep. Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And that was lovely. Oh my God, because neither
Nice.
of us have been to Niagara Falls. So it was just such a special place to visit.
Absolutely, yeah, and I know that that Tom Savini will be at the Monster Mania in Baltimore this October. I plan on meeting him and getting his signature with the rest of the Part 4 cast.
Oh,
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time this evening to join me. It's really been so much fun.
well, thank you for a great interview.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. I
Leave
will
no
send you
background.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll send you the link and once it's up and I'll tag you, Carey. I don't think Camilla has Facebook, but I'll tag Carey on it and
Okay,
we'll promote this interview. Thank you.
wonderful.
All
Thank you
right.
so
Yep.
much.
Have a good rest of your night.
You
Yeah,
too.
you
Yep.
too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.